Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Fueled by Macros, and I'm so happy to be doing a kind of speak to the expert video again today, an expert in something that I know very little about, but this woman knows a hell of a lot about, and that is Natalie of Grow Jiu Jitsu.
Good morning.
Hi. So would you like to kind of introduce yourself, let everyone know a little bit about yourself, Natalie?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Natalie, as Tamar just told you. I am a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu instructor. I've been training probably for nearly about 10 years now. And it is my entire life. So there you go.
So true. You live and breathe it, for sure. You live and breathe it.
Oh, yeah.
So as you say, you've been doing it for 10 years now. And I was really pleased. I put a question out on Instagram asking people to kind of send us questions, what they wanted me to speak to you about today. And one of the first ones that came in was how you actually got started in your BJJ journey. And if that came before you met Mauricio Gomes, who is your husband.
Yes. So I was training for about 5 years before I actually met Mauricio. My children were doing local martial arts classes, and it was actually karate, but I believe at the time that there was some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu within their syllabus. I'd seen the benefits that these classes had for them, confidence-wise, and physically. Their flexibility and things had definitely changed. And in my previous career in social work, I found myself in a really vulnerable situation with one of my clients where it was made very, very clear to me that I had absolutely no way of defending myself if I needed to within a physical altercation. During that time, I wasn't a particularly confident person anyway. So, for example, if there was a big group of teenagers outside the local shop, I probably wouldn't go in, although I'd planned to. I would never get a cab on my own, things like that. I was quite a fearful person. And then I had this situation at work and it just completely knocked me for six. I was terrified to go back to work and pretty much terrified to do anything. And I went to pick up my children from the karate class one day, and there was a flyer advertising adult classes. And I remember saying to the instructor, I was wondering if this might help me. And he said to me, well, the karate side of things, not so much, because if you're looking for the self-defense element, if you punch somebody, you're not going to be as strong as, an adult male, and you're likely to sort of make them angry. And however, there's this other thing that we do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is way more applicable. So I think I went to my first class a week later. Yes. And was absolutely terrified, if I'm completely honest with you. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced in my life. I wasn't sure about it at all. Having a grown man sit on me and sort of sweat in my face was quite a new experience.
It almost feels like it would be counterintuitive to what you were trying to achieve, right?
Absolutely. And I do believe that if I hadn't had other women there training and encouraging me to keep coming, I probably wouldn't have stuck at it, because I had a big, fresh, opened traumatic wound. And there were times where being stuck underneath somebody much bigger and stronger than me, who's trying to submit me, would flare up that trauma a little bit and the panic would set in. But the women who were training at that time really carried me through that initial period. And yeah, I think after about 2 months, that was it, hooked.
Yeah, amazing. And this actually brings us seamlessly onto another fab question that came in about how you feel Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu empowers women.
Well, this is an interesting one. I was thinking about this one because I think Jiu-Jitsu is related to self-defense in a lot of ways. However, I think the most empowering thing for women within Jiu-Jitsu is it allows you to be yourself. So it kind of strips away all of those constructs that women have to, survive in. Society have told them that they have to be just absolutely fucking fantastic at everything. We've all got to be the perfect mothers. We've all got to look like supermodels and all of those things. And within jiu-jitsu, you can't be thinking about whether you look good as you do it. You have to immerse yourself in the sport, because somebody is trying to attack you. Somebody is trying to finish you, whether that's, they're trying to stop you from breathing, or they're trying to, rip your arm off. So you have to be in the fight. You have to be mentally completely and utterly in it, to be thinking, how am I going to attack this person? Oh, they're attacking me. How am I going to defend? And so it actually just strips away all of the voices and the mind noise and all of the crap that goes with it. And I think that that's one of the most empowering things as a woman who does jiu-jitsu, is that when I step on the mat, I'm just my true core self within that sport. Yeah.
I absolutely love that point. That wasn't actually where I was thinking you were going to go with that, but that really resonates with me. I speak so much with my clients about using their body, not viewing it as an ornament, but using it as an instrument, what they can do with it. And, having watched you and some of your athletes as well, like, you guys really have to use your bodies in that sport. Like, it's intense.
It's really intense, and you have to use your body, but you have to use your body in conjunction with your mind, because if you're not intelligent with it, then you're going to tap, right? If you don't recognize the point where, somebody's passing your guard, getting past your legs, and they're pinning you to the floor, and you're thinking about something else, I think we've all been there, where you've suddenly sort of switched to, oh, what am I having for dinner? Like, you're done. You're done. You're tapping. You have to think of it of like, I'm here, but they're doing this, so now I've got to change to this. So it's the constant, the physical, moving your body is so good for your mind, but also switching your mind off from the day to day is one of the most healthy things you can do in terms of meditation. And this is a form of meditation, however, you're using your body at the same time. That's how it feels for me, at least.
That's really amazing. It's such a multifaceted tool in that way, isn't it? And this does actually make me recall a conversation I had with Mauricio a while ago, where he was saying that basically everything that you do on the mat is like an analogy for things that you can apply to in life. And to have that mental discipline that gives you, especially as a woman, when, let's face it, we are juggling a lot of balls all the time. How amazing to actually be able to compartmentalize, switch off from everything else, and focus in on what you need to do for that hour or however long it is that you're training and on the mat.
It's accessible to everybody as well. I've got women who come to train with me, and they literally walk into the gym, and you see them like shoulders drop, and they just go, oh, me time. They've left everything else that's going on in their lives out, and that is their exact moment for them to be with themselves and other, like-minded people, and do something that benefits them mentally and physically.
Yeah, definitely. I know that you train men, women, children, older people as well. I think it's a very inclusive sport, isn't it? But again, when I put the question out on Instagram, there seemed to be a lot of interest from women. It seems to really be sort of driving forward, and a lot of women showing interest in it. And one actually who hasn't ever tried it before but seems interested, she asked this question: is it best suited to a certain body type?
That's a really interesting question. In short, the answer is no. So what I find is I'll be in the gym doing my training, and some days I'll walk out and go, oh, I wish I was 100-kilo male, because they're bigger, they're stronger, they can move people around more easily, and and I'm not that. And then I'll leave the gym the next day. I've got a training partner, Roxanne. She's probably about 47 kilos, a tiny little thing, but it lends itself to her body type because she's able to bring little sharp knees in, and she's fast, and, you know, blink and she's past your guard and she's got you. And so I'll come out of those training sessions and going, oh, I wish I was really small and agile. And it literally lends itself to every single body type. There are certain moves that if you've got longer limbs, they're going to probably be a little bit easier for you to achieve than if you've got shorter legs, but then vice versa in different positions. So all body types and all ages for jiu-jitsu, and for the win, definitely.
And I suppose then, like any sport as well, it's playing to your strengths, isn't it? It's using what you've got, using your body as that tool or that instrument. I think we can apply that to all sports, can't we? It's like, okay, well, what have I got? This is the technique that's going to work best for me. So it's adaptable, I suppose.
It's applicable to life, isn't it? We should all be sort of embracing our strengths and applying it to our lives. And it's exactly the same, you know, with jiu-jitsu. I think I'm more on the normal scale as a, you know, jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't call myself an athlete because I don't make a living from competing. I started when I was 31. I haven't got amazing hip mobility, things like that. I mean, it's much better now that I've started jiu-jitsu. But, you know, I think I know my body's capabilities, and I know where it's strong and I know where it's not. And the beauty of jiu-jitsu is that I'm able to adapt the sport to fit me, which I just think is unbelievable, because it's so that's empowering. That's really empowering. So I can be taught a move by a very, very strong, bigger guy, which is fantastic. However, if I'm then training with a bigger, strong guy, I might not necessarily be able to do that move because they outpower me, or, you know, for whatever reason. But 9 times out of 10, I can adapt the move. And if I can't, I will go to coaches to help me adapt the move so that I can then use it effectively. And I mean, that's addictive. I just love that.
Yeah. I often say that we, you know, should treat everyone we meet in life as a teacher. And I kind of love what you're saying there about what you can learn from, you know, all the different people that you get to grapple with, all the different coaches that you see. And actually, you mentioned mobility. There were a few kind of questions about things that you might do to support the sport outside of the mat. Someone was saying, do you need great mobility to do it? It sounds like that isn't necessarily a prerequisite.
No, it's not. It helps, you know, I'm not going to lie. It helps. It comes with the training as well. So you may start jiu-jitsu and have really, really poor mobility. That will increase. You know, it's like some people describe it as involuntary yoga, because you're put in those positions. So it will increase. I think there are bits and pieces that you can do. I'm a strong advocate for stretching, whatever that looks like to you, whether that's Pilates, whether that's yoga. I think that can really, really help. That's something I have to do. But it really, you know, I've got a guy that trains with me. He's done martial arts in the past, different ones. And I mean, you know, he's a broken human physically, little bit older, and he's had knee replacements and hip surgeries and things like that. And he can still train jiu-jitsu in a safe environment. We know, you know, what his injuries are. As he's a little bit older, he knows his limitations. You know, he knows when he feels like a tweak somewhere that actually, no, he's going to stop at that point. But he can still completely get loads and loads out of his training, which again is what I love, is that, you know, it is applicable to most people.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, kind of harking back to what you were saying earlier, when there are so many benefits in different ways from it, you know, if you're happy to go into doing a sport, not being a competitive athlete, but looking at all of the other benefits, even if they're fringe benefits, like the mental aspect of it, the kind of the meditation side, the clarity of thought, just looking at those, even, it's worth spending an hour doing something that's going to benefit you like that.
Definitely. I think for me, I walk around just feeling a little bit taller, you know, I've got this, like, it's not a superpower, that wouldn't be right, but I've got this thing that I do that makes me feel really good. And I walk around and I carry that with me the whole time. I've seen the benefits in so many different people. I specialize in teaching children and teenagers, and we've had like a lot of people come through the gym where they're being bullied at school to quite an extreme, and so on the practical level, we teach them how to handle themselves physically. We teach them how to handle themselves physically. It's a fine line, but without getting themselves in a huge amount of trouble as well. But equally, they are given a community. You know, immediately they're accepted into a community of people who are going to help them. This isn't a one-woman show. And you see their confidence grow because they've got this secret that they can then carry into school with them. And because they walk taller, generally they're less likely to be picked on to quite the same degree as they were before.
I can totally see why you called your business Grow.
Absolutely. For me, it was a no-brainer, because I just looked at how far I had come, you know, and I'm a completely and utterly different human being to the person I was before I started jiu-jitsu. And getting to see all of these individuals changing over time, and everybody comes with something slightly different as well, and it's really interesting to watch them progress and to watch them change.
Amazing. You must get a real sense of pride from that very rewarding work. Okay, cool. So another question that came in is, do you, and I know the answer to this, do you think any strength training is required to complement or assist Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
So I think for anybody that is looking to compete professionally within Jiu-Jitsu, it's a must. It's a must. I've got friends who are full-time athletes at the highest level, and all of them strength train. It's really, really important. If you are a hobbyist and you're training once, twice a week, and that's what you can fit in to your busy life, then jiu-jitsu on its own is completely and utterly fine. You must stretch. For recovery, you must stretch. It'll just make the next time you train much, much more pleasurable than if you don't, and getting up the next day. I don't strength train. What I do is I do rehab. So I have really tight hip flexors. My core isn't particularly stable, and this is due to my core is due to a riding accident that I had at 13. And so I've worked with an osteopath and a strength coach who has built me a program, which has been the most valuable thing that I could have had. I struggled for years and years with lower back problems, and they did not go hand in hand with my jiu-jitsu training. So I would get sort of a good couple of months run at jiu-jitsu, and then I'd have to have 2-3 weeks out because I couldn't, do anything because my lower back had gone. So now I'm really quite disciplined with it, what I do. It's 3 times a week, which is manageable. If it had to be every day, it probably wouldn't happen for me, because I like jiu-jitsu. I don't really like any other form of exercise. That being said, I haven't tried everything, but jiu-jitsu is my thing. I think strength training is massively beneficial to jiu-jitsu. So do as I say, don't do as I do. I think the main benefit, the 2 main benefits that I've seen is obviously strength. It does come into play. If you're stronger, you're going to be able to power out of positions. If you're trying to escape difficult positions, that's definitely going to help you. But also the rate of recovery after injury, it's much, much faster. And the injuries don't seem to be quite so severe. So for my younger athletes who are looking to do this full time, the next part of their training, we will be looking to bring in some strength training as well. Some of them already do it. But it's kind of where you're at with it. Are you a hobbyist? are you looking to compete? If you're looking to compete, are you looking to do that as a hobbyist where you want to test yourself and see how you're doing? Are you trying to rehab injuries? So it's applicable to the individual, I think. Yeah. I mean, my osteopath has told me that I should start lifting. So I definitely should start lifting. It's just trying to fit it all into, a seriously busy schedule. And so the rehab has to take priority, I think.
Yeah, and you just actually took the key word out of my mouth. Actually, it's all about priorities, isn't it? Because someone else asked, do you think it's possible to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu alongside other sports, such as powerlifting? And again, I suppose that depends on what level you want to pursue one of those. At some point, you have to prioritize, well, am I wanting to be competitive in one or the other, right?
Yeah, so I have a student who powerlifts as well. The benefits, as I just said to you, they're enormous. She's unbelievably strong, and probably gets very sick of people rolling with her for the first time and going, wow, you're strong. But she is, and she has a deep-seated love affair with powerlifting, but also competes in jiu-jitsu. And so we have sat down before and gone, okay, what's coming up? Okay, it's a powerlifting competition, so the jiu-jitsu training is just going to be a little bit lighter. We're gonna pick some lighter partners. Maybe if we're doing a competition training session, we're not doing all the rounds, maybe we're sitting one out, just to conserve energy. And then after the powerlifting competition's done, we're looking at a jiu-jitsu competition. Okay, so we're heavy on the jiu-jitsu. She doesn't stop lifting, she lifts throughout. And I think it's absolutely, you can do as many bloody sports as you want to do at any time. Just do what makes you happy. And I can see that she just loves both, which is fantastic. The only thing I would say is, I've got another powerlifter too, is that there's not a huge amount of flexibility, I think.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. And so I don't know enough about it, but I encourage my powerlifters to stretch quite a lot, particularly within the hips as well, because hip movement in jiu-jitsu is quite a big one. Equally, I don't know if that's taking away from their powerlifting or not. I don't know.
I think a lot of powerlifters actually would benefit from more rehab, more stretching,
that's good. That's good.
Hip openers to get deeper into the squat.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's transferable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think as well, like even just thinking about little things that might help. I know with BJJ, you're using your whole body, but grip strength is an important one, isn't it? And so some things can be transferable.
Oh, 100%. If one of the powerlifters grips me, and I've been training for nearly 10 years, it's a problem, Tamar. It's a problem. Yeah. And I'm either going to have to just give up and go, okay, well, we'll navigate around this grip, or I have to take that deep breath 2-on-1 and go, come on, pray to the universe that this time I can strip it. There's huge benefits to being strong and coming into jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
We love that. Probably, I think after this we'll get personal. We'll talk more about you. But this is just like a more generalized question finally. What would you recommend people should do to have a longer career in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
So this has come from personal experience. As I said before, I am normal. I'm probably one of the most normal people that you would get coming into jiu-jitsu. I started at 31, so I didn't have, a career behind me through my 20s of competing. I hadn't done a huge amount of sport before that. I'd done a little bit of running. I did quite a lot of swimming, but that was more for aesthetic reasons. When I was younger, it was really important for me to be skinny, and all of those things, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. For me now, I'm 40 years old. I want to be able to do this forever. I train 4 to 5 times a week. At 32, 33, I used to train maybe 10 sessions a week. For me, it's doable. I could train every day if I wanted to, but the physical problems that I would have, it just isn't worth it for me. So I think for longevity, I think pace yourself, give yourself rest days. They're really important. Even if, you know, you're maybe still training, but instead of hard sparring, you're drilling positions, you're flow rolling. You know, I do that a lot. I really enjoy doing that. It doesn't need to be an every single day kind of thing. Recovery's really, really important. What you fuel yourself with is really important as well. So having worked with you, I've taken the principles of what to eat when. So that's been a game changer for me. So making sure that I eat the right things before training and after training, I just feel so much better. My recovery is so much better. Do what you can do. So as you get older in this sport, and you know, I don't really count myself as an older person, but I train older people. I think adapting the moves, like I said to you earlier. So maybe I'll teach something which means you have to invert. So you have to go upside down on the back of your neck. Like, that's not going to be applicable for everybody. So there will be a plan B for other people so that they can carry on training, but without injuring themselves, or without me teaching them something that they think, well, I can't do that, you know, and then them sort of having low self-esteem around that as well. The biggest thing I've learned is to listen to my body 100%. If I'm feeling even like a niggle, I will address it within my training. So I've had a problem with one of my elbows recently. So rather than just blazing on through, which maybe 5-6 years ago I definitely would have done, I will make sure that if we're specific training, that the person is training on the other side to the injured side. Right. If my body is compromised in any way and I feel like, oh no, this doesn't feel very good, I'll tap. I don't care who I'm with. I don't care whether they've got a submission on me or not. I don't care if that person is a white belt and thinks that they've just tapped the instructor. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. It used to, but it doesn't bother me whatsoever now, because I have to keep myself safe, because I want to live to teach and train another day. That is completely different to a full-time athlete. Completely. I'm pretty sure, I've read a lot, I've listened to a lot, they have to push through. They have to keep training where they can, they'll try and protect injuries as much as they can, but this is their livelihood and they're looking to reach the top. So it's much more brutal in that sense. But I'm married to somebody who is 66 years old. He's been training since he was 5 years old. He squats like a teenager. And the thing that I take from him is, and he still trains, he still spars, regularly. But for him, it's more like 3 times a week now. So he still gets he teaches every day, but he spars maybe 3-4 times a week, which gives him good recovery days. And he takes 2 consecutive recovery days. That was a game changer for me as well, that if I'm going to rest, having 2 together, it does more than just the one.
Yeah, definitely. That is such a crucial thing. Again, I think across all sports, more isn't always more, and you don't have to leave a session completely wrecked, hobbling out of the door. You don't need to have DOMs for days. Usually less is more. Recovery is where the growth happens, where you get stronger, and it's so important to use that time to rest, and then, as you say, nourish yourself as well. Good nutrition, so you're well fueled up. You wouldn't go and do a marathon having run the day before. You'd have a few days rest before you go do it. So people, I think when they're very new to a sport and they're enthusiastic, or if they've got a very big ego, we'll just like push through, do more. But as you sort of grow into your training age and your training maturity, you really have to learn, humility, don't you? And what works for your body.
And I think it's like, it's intelligence,
Yeah.
isn't it? You've got to be intelligent about your training. I would say that that's across the board. I have a core group of around 6 teenagers who they train 6 days a week. They are on fire. They, this is all they want to do right now. And I have to say to them sometimes, you look really tired. Maybe let's have a rest day. Let's, maybe if we're not going to spar today, but I'll run a session which is just drilling. We're just flow rolling, because then they're not sat at home bored. They're still with their community. They're still training. They all bring something to the table. So they'll research a move. They'll come in and they'll be like, "Oh, coach, I really want to train this. Let's have a little look at this. Does it work?" And so the brain is still firing.
Yeah.
I'm in the gym 6 days a week, but it doesn't mean that 6 days a week I'm sparring to the point of exhaustion. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is you can still do the thing. I've got, in our sister academy up at RGA Bucks, we had a guy there recently who'd broken his leg, and before sessions he was in one of those big old casts with a boot and everything. He would work with one other guy and they would do some flow rolling. The leg was just kind of left out the way a little bit. And I think as long as you've got good friends and you've got good training partners, you can still get on the mat and you can still get benefits from it.
Yeah, definitely. This has been wonderful talking with you today, and I think anyone watching will really learn so much. And I just really get like the vibe and the serenity and the peace as well that you get from doing this, but also all those other kind of physical benefits as well. So someone did ask what the highlight is of your coaching career, but before you go into that, I was just going to say as well, you're a brown belt, aren't you? And have been a competitive podium athlete in your own time as well, so you must have had some great highlights and experiences throughout your time doing this.
I have. It's been one hell of a ride. So when I got sort of halfway through white belt, I made the commitment to myself that I would compete at every belt. Maybe just once, but it was going to be at every belt. And so far, so good. I'm yet to compete at brown belt because COVID kind of, got in the way of that one. And I've done okay. I think competitively speaking, my highlight, there's no two ways about it. I went to Las Vegas with my husband and I competed in the World Masters at blue belt. And I took a bronze medal at that competition. But the most wonderful thing about it is that I had been training with my husband 6 months prior to this competition, and we had a plan, and the plan suited me to a T. And I'd struggled before that competitively with nerves, absolutely terrible. I would set foot on the mat. I would remember shaking the referee's hand. I'd slap hands, tap fists, everything would go blank, white noise, and I would literally come to about 5 seconds later on the ground and be like, I've got no idea what's just happened, and now I've got to fight and I'm losing. So that would happen pretty much every single match. And then we went to Vegas. We were having fun as well. It felt like a holiday, that's my favorite time to compete. If I get like a holiday out of it too, I feel different about it. And I slapped and I tapped, and that didn't happen for the first time. And I managed to execute my plan, and I managed to win my fight via submission, a submission that I'd always planned to do. So competitively speaking, that was my highlight, and having my husband there coaching me, being surrounded by great people. It doesn't get much better than that. Coaching wise, that's a difficult one. In all honesty, T, I think the best is yet to come. I have a couple of students who right now, their future is incredibly bright within jiu-jitsu. They are the most dedicated people I've ever met. They are 14 years old. which is incredible within itself to me. I've got another one who's 16, and obviously COVID was very, very difficult for them. And a lot of the teenagers that I teach, their mental health really, really suffered during COVID, especially when Jiu Jitsu is their thing. But coming back from that, they've worked really, really hard. And last month, we had a competition, and one of my students, Andre, he took gold, and he hadn't won a gold medal before COVID. He's a real team player. He helps the whole team. He helps me teach my kids classes, and to watch him step on the mat, win his fights via submission, he deserved those wins. And as a coach, that's just the best feeling in the world. That same event, I've got a student who suffers with quite extreme anxiety to the point where they sometimes struggle to sort of go out and leave the house. And they competed, and it was not an easy competition for them. There's a position called mount position where somebody just fully sits on you and smothers you. And in certain rule sets, they don't have to do anything there. They can just stay there. It's not great jiu-jitsu. Like, you would like to see them trying to submit the person, but they didn't. And so she ended up underneath this person, being suffocated for nearly a full 5 minutes, and came away from it feeling quite disheartened. Took herself off, for an hour or so, but came back and we had a chat, and she had a chat with some of our other teammates, and she went back in and fought again in the absolute. And that for me was everything, absolutely everything. And the same thing happened again, but she was a different person. Wow. She fought tooth and nail to escape that mount position, did escape the mount position, and her family are there supporting her. And I can just see the difference that this makes to her life, to go from not wanting to leave your house to going to a competition where there's hundreds of people screaming and shouting. Your whole family are there watching you. You've got to put it all on the line. It's not a team sport. It's just you. It's an incredible achievement. So I think those two, they're up there. But I strongly suspect that by the end of the year, I'm going to have a few more.
Yeah. And I suspect there will be a few tears shed throughout the years as well, watching on with pride at people, achieving new feats and PBs and personal growth for themselves.
I think one of the best things is to see people who they don't believe in themselves. Like, generally, as human beings, we've lost the ability to really sort of believe in ourselves. And, I've got a student now who's been with me, gosh, it must be nearly a year and a half. And, I think that she was sort of quite nervous within herself. Can I actually do this? And right before she'd never done a competition before, and right before her first fight, it was she was very nervous, to the point where I thought, this might not go so well. However, when she stepped on that mat, she turned into this she-beast. It was really quite unbelievable.
Yeah.
And she had the experience that I had. She had a plan, and she managed to execute her plan beautifully and submit on her very first fight, her very, very first competition, with my signature submission, which I taught her. And watching somebody go from, an hour beforehand, like, I really don't think that I can do this. This is just, it's way, way out of my comfort zone, to taking a silver medal and winning by submission. It's such a huge jump in such a short amount of time. It just shows you that the human spirit is strong. It's really strong. And I love to see that play out.
Yeah, it's very inspiring, very inspiring. So you are based in Oxfordshire. If anybody is local in the area, how best can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
They can find me at growjujitsu.com. It's got my number on. Shoot me a text. Come and try some free lessons and see if you like it. We're a small club. We're not, there's not hundreds of people. Everybody's really warm, really, really welcoming, and you'll get help from everybody if you come and try.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've just started Grow Events is a new thing that's going on. What's that all about?
So one of my favorite things to do with jiu-jitsu is I love to go to competitions. I love to travel, to compete, to train, all of those things. It's what makes the journey really, really exciting. And those moments, they're the highlights that pinpoint your journey. And I love events, and I just wanted to create a series of events that I would love to go to selfishly. One of my students is a super talented events manager. So we've joined together and gone on this creative journey to try and create these absolutely awesome events. And so we have our first event coming up in February. I can't tell you much more about it because it's top secret at the moment, but our launch date is in early November. It's an extension of Grow Jiu-Jitsu. It's just something I just want to create things that bring people together. One of the best things about jiu-jitsu is the people that you meet along the way. And you'll have your team are super important and they're great. But if you can get out there and go to different things, it's a load of like-minded people who like jiu-jitsu and other things that come into play. You know, there's a huge yoga community that goes alongside jiu-jitsu. And bringing people together and just like shared super positive experiences. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds very exciting. And I know you've got an Instagram account for that, haven't you? So I suppose anyone who wants to find out more, go and follow Grow Events.
Grow Events on Instagram. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Nat. Thank you. And I'm sure
thank you too.
Anyone who watches this will feel very inspired as well by everything that you've shared with us. So thanks so much for your time and all the best with your future endeavours.
Oh, thank you very much. Same to you.
Thank you.